Hello everyone, it's good to be back. I don't have a lot of time, so I'm going to make a very quick video today, and it is mostly about how we are essentially in our, free 60-day trial of communism here in Canada. So I'm just here to make a video to try to show you how close we are to communism and the other communist states that have implemented very draconian measures. So it's very serious, very bad situation Canada's in. The virus, I'm not a doctor, I'm not a health specialist, so I'm not here to talk about that, but I'm just here to say that the Trudeau government will use the virus in order to impose a lot more strict measures on us, and these measures are going to be similar to what Soviet Russia did or what the Chinese government has done to their people when they implemented communism, or Cuba. Look at any communist country, Pol Pot in Cambodia. Look at any country that you want. 33 of them have tried it, and you'll see that what Trudeau is doing to us right now is very close to that, and I'm going to teach you how to spot further measures so that you can be alarmed, so that you can protest right away and make sure that we don't end up like Cuba, Venezuela, whoever else tried this. So before I get into that, really quick reminder of what communism is and socialism. So socialism is the 400-year period before communism. So it's the path to communism is really socialism. I've made a couple more videos. Y'all know how much I hate socialism. So according to Karl Marx, it would take about 400 years of socialist government rule in order to achieve the utopian communistic state. And that's the state where you actually end up going to, you wake up, you work super hard. Everybody works hard because they're all working together. And then they would go to grocery stores at night and only take what they need, never take more. Then they could go to the hospital for whatever, and everything is paid for because everybody's working hard. So it's a utopian ideology, this communist idea. And in reality, when you understand psychology of human beings, you know that it will never be achieved. However, countries, for some godforsaken reason, keep trying it, and it just blows my mind. It's one thing when Karl Marx wrote the book and he's like the Communist Manifesto, and he's like, yeah, look at how great this is. But then country after country has tried it, killed a lot of their citizens and failed. And the fact that today any other country wants to even try it one more time is beyond my comprehension. I just don't get it. So anyways, the virus is here. We're all in lockdown. A lot of our basic rights are being taken away. So think about it. You think you're in there for your protection. You're in your home for your protection. However, what really is happening is essentially we're all under a form of house arrest at this point. So that's a big thing where we've traded our freedom for security. That's one of the first things that happens in a communist society. The government comes along and says, we're going to protect you, we're going to make this better. And then the citizens believe it and say, okay, yeah, so they trade their freedom for security. So this is what's happening here in Canada. It's happening in other places in the world, but I'm focused on Canada because that's where I live. And I just don't want to see my country go down the drain. Y'all out there in other countries, you want to try communism or socialism? Go for it. But in my country, where I am a citizen of my country, I want to defend my country against this terrible idea that is socialism. So hopefully in the next 60 days, when we live through a little bit of it and we start going through the shortages and all that, we are going to get our good inoculation against socialism, and it'll make us not want to go there. That's my hope once we see what it is. But I'm going to show you how to recognize the signs. So we have, first of all, the lockdown, where we are not allowed to go out of our homes anymore. Another thing that is very alarming to me is the snitch, right? So snitches get stitches. That's the prison rule. But in communist world and socialism, snitches get rewarded. So we're seeing that a lot. I unfortunately don't have a lot of time to do video editing, so I can't put the articles in here. But if you look at some of the articles that are coming out in Canada, they are actually giving tips to citizens on how to spy on their fellow citizens who are out, either out because they shouldn't be out, or they whatever, right? They're out of their house and they shouldn't be out, or they're congregated somewhere with more than 5 people. And there's hotlines now that are established. There's a procedure established in place in Canada to snitch on your fellow citizens. This is one of the hallmarks of communism or socialist states. They have all done that, and the snitches get rewarded. So right now, there's no reward process per se, but you can easily see once you're in a scenario where neighbors don't trust neighbors, everybody's against each other, it's very easy to just start saying, oh, well, we'll give you $10 every time that you snitch on a neighbor that's been out of their house for no good reason. You can see how many people are going to start snitching. And what's really dangerous about that is that people start snitching in a way that there's no truth to it. So if for the last 20 years, your next door neighbor, you've been pissing him off because your fence is like slightly on his property and he's been looking for a way to get back at you, in the snitch get reward scenario of socialist society, he can now say that you're out of your house even if you weren't. And that's a way to get him to get rewarded. So he will get what he wanted. He hated you, he hated your guts because your fence was on his property. Now he's going to say that you're out even though it's not true. There's no way, there's no time to have a big court date over all this stuff. So they're just going to be like, all right, off you go to the gulag, right? So that's one of the things that is very alarming, and that really puts us on the path to a socialist society. I dropped my paper on the floor. Hold on. I said I have no time for editing. I was not kidding. This is going to be in the video. Okay. So another thing to look out for that the Canadian government is already starting, they are taking over some companies. So the nationalization of private property, that is essentially what socialists do. So they basically will take over any private property that's out there. So often starts with companies, and then it becomes just landowners or even just normal people like you and me. We own like a small house or a small camper somewhere. They'll come in and they'll take that and say, declare it, this is state property now, relocate you to some kind of collective farm. And that's how they've done it in the past. So now they have they're commissioning some companies to make masks. Not saying that's a bad idea per se, but the idea is that in a free society, you would have the natural market, the free market would identify the need for masks, so that the supply and demand, and they would naturally start producing this themselves so that they can actually get a profit from it, right? So they'll recognize the need and they'll gear everything they need to be able to produce that. But now when the government is taking over the industry and they're doing it with tax money. You have a loss of efficiencies because they don't really care about making a profit. They're using our money to run companies. So they don't care if they make a profit. They don't care how many people make mistakes doing this and that. They don't care if the masks are subpar. This is what happens. And this is the first step towards nationalization, because what could happen next, I'm not saying this is going to, because we can try to stop this, but if you start seeing the government take over companies. So let's pick on Bombardier, for example. What if the company, the government says now we have nationalized Bombardier. It's now a publicly owned company governed by the state. So that is something to watch out for. They might do that. They haven't yet. Right now, they're just using private industry to achieve what they want. But if they get to the state where they can take it over, that's true socialism / communism. So in Italy, back in the right before the Second World War, I know that Benito Mussolini, he was taking over companies, but in a fascist environment, they don't nationalize them. They take over the company, but they still let the people work the company. They basically, the fascists will tell the company what to produce. So you can see how Canada is a little bit like that right now. They're taking a private company and they're telling them what to produce. So they call it commissioning them. But yeah, you can see how we're very close to fascism on that one, but it could easily slip into socialism. So very, very big thing to look out for. Another one is any form of central planning. So if the government goes, yes, okay, so we are going to orchestrate this vaccine for the virus and we're going to distribute it, that's a form of central planning. If they say we are going to look after all of the food supply, the food chain management, because now there's toilet paper shortages, so we're going to take over and we are going to run with all of that. That is another way of doing any form of central planning. Central planning means that whenever It's a government takes control of everything. So nothing is left in the hands of individuals anymore. It's all the government, and that causes breakdown of society because there's a lot of shortages and you get increased crime and a black market, all that stuff. So it's very bad, but a lot of the socialist governments have all done central planning. So land redistribution is another one that you're going to want to look out for. According to the Emergency Act that we're under in Canada, the government is allowed to come in and take our house if they want because they need it to fight the virus. However, if this rule remains in place in the future and they say for the great of the common good, we need to now take all of the people in this block, relocate you because we need that entire block for something, that is also one of the MOs of the socialist governments. So watch out for that. If they try to do land redistribution, I sure hope Canadians will stand up and fight for that because it is never a good idea. The change from the individual to the collective. So I've already started to see that a little bit with the virus. They're saying, well, we as Canadians, right? So it's very different when you're going for nationalism, which is we're proud to be Canadians, we're trying to save our country. But when you start using the we as Canadians as we all need to come together, those are things that we're seeing right now. We all need to come together to do this. And I'm not saying that in itself is a bad thing. I'm saying watch out for that because that could be extended into the collectivization of our resources. So you could say we as Canadians need to collectively work on farms so that we can grow vegetables, right? And this is what the government will say, well, we'll take these farmlands, we're going to put a bunch of people on them as collective farming, and off you go. So I'm thinking it could go that way because it's happened a lot in previous socialist communities, socialist societies before. So there's also a message of hope in it. Like the socialists are always like, oh, we'll make it so great because they're trying to get to that utopia of communists that I was mentioning. And so their message of hope is always, we are doing this for the collective good and we are doing this to make a better society. But really it's a trick. Don't fall for it. The anti-American rhetoric, this happened, it's not written in the Communist Manifesto. The Communist Manifesto speaks more about the classes and the anti-capitalism and all that, but in the more modern socialist societies, it's been anti-American rhetoric, so bashing America essentially, because America is the epitome of capitalism. It's the best country in the world. So anytime you start hearing like massive, like the USA is bad, that's another sign of communism, and just watch for that. I think that might increase. We already know Trudeau wants nothing to do with the States because he's much more aligned ideologically with China and Cuba, which are both socialist societies, so communists essentially. But so he's already been on that path for a while, but just watch for an escalation of that, and just remind yourself, when you hear constant bashing, unless you have like the Trump derangement symptom, just think about American values as a whole, ignore Trump in this whole thing, and just try to think, is it really worth bashing it? And why are we constantly bashing America? Why do we need to constantly bash the USA? So anyways, something to think about. Declaring people as non-existent or depersonalizing people. I've seen it online. They're basically deleting YouTube channels and saying, oh, they never existed or something like that. This is the new way of doing it. In the old socialist way, before the technology arose, they would just deperson you and discredit you and say, no, you don't exist anymore. There was an example of a very famous rock singer. I can't remember which socialist country he was under. I think it was the USSR. But he was essentially told, I wanted to go on a tour and get out of the USSR, and he was essentially told, you're no longer a rock star. You're nothing now. So, and it's funny because all of these, I don't mean funny, haha, I just mean funny because all these Hollywood actors who are all endorsing socialism don't even realize they're going to be the first ones to pay the price. They're going to lose their careers, their money. They don't know, they don't realize. It's mind-boggling, really. Okay, I'm almost there. They will ruin the careers of anybody who opposes this. So anybody who tries to flag this as a problem, Canada like cozying up to socialism, these people will have their careers ruined. I am fully expecting my career to be ruined. Not that I have a great career anyways. I mostly have a job, but I fully expect to lose my job. I've been saying that for years now that I've been doing these videos. But I think that it's very important to get these kinds of messages out. So please keep doing them too. If you're one of the people who sees the danger in socialism and don't want our country to go towards that, speak out against it. It's not worth going to a socialist state in order to preserve a job or even a career. So a lot of other people have done far more bigger sacrifices than that simple thing. So anyways, if you're able to, if not, write to me, because I will, put your ideas out here if you want. I don't mind being the vehicle for that, so please do that. But anyways, once all of that is done, this virus thing, we'll see where we're at, but keep an eye out for that. But the stimulus package that we got in Canada, basically, it's okay, I guess, for now. But depending on how long everybody has to stay under house arrest, I don't know if there will be an incentive for many people to work, because I think a lot of people who were like servers in a restaurant or something, they probably make roughly the same amount of money that they do now being on unemployment benefits. So I don't know how many people will go back to work, but you can see that a lot of the socialist packages, which that payout was, the pay everybody to stay home, is essentially socialism, a socialist idea, and it will breed the incentive not to work. So people will not want to work. So anyways, that's it, guys, for today. I will come back at you with another hatred for communism, hatred for socialist video. And in the meantime, stay safe, stay healthy, and I'll see you in the next one.